Here we go. Welcome to this week's episode of Guardian and Gladiators. My name is Lauzie, and always is with me is, I don't know about this guy, but D, how are you?
I'm good. What do you mean you don't know about me? Huh? Come on. You should know pretty much everything about me by now. Wow. Have you dug out of all this snow we've had this week?
Oh,
Crazy, eh? Back to real winter. I think we were spoiled there for a little bit. We hadn't been getting the actual winter snow in London, but here we go. We're back with snow right across the province. And I guess we were actually not so bad off. I think Toronto and areas like that got it even worse than us. So,
oh yeah.
but we're back and starting to get some promising news from the government about maybe things starting to open up a little bit. So hopefully, as the weeks go by, we start to hear more encouraging news in relation to our sports, and we can get you guys back out where you're supposed to be.
Yep, I
Not
hope so.
Sitting on the couch with your feet up, eating chips and listening to Guardians and Gladiators, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, speaking of Guardians and Gladiators, we have a pretty exciting show this week. We are glad to be joined by a London athlete, Eric Pajot, and pretty special thing about Eric that we're going to learn this morning that just gives you an insight into what kind of people these athletes are. All right, Lauzie? It's going to be nice to speak with Eric.
It's
good. And then after Eric, we also have another really special guest that we're privileged to have with us. We're looking forward to speaking to the former Ontario Provincial Police Commissioner, Chris Lewis, who has long-time involvement with Special Olympics in a various different ways, and has been nonstop in the public eye since he left the role of commissioner. And we'll find out a little bit more about that when we speak to him today. So exciting, isn't it?
Exciting, yeah.
Exciting. All right. Well, we are going to come right back after this and get right into it with our first guest. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to Guardians and Gladiators, folks. So here we are with our first guest. He's a powerlifter, floor hockey, and golfer. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Good. Thanks for joining us on the show.
No, not a problem.
So when did you start Special Olympics, Eric?
I would have been in probably grade 9. So about 17, 18 years ago.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah. What sport did you start with?
I think it was softball I started with.
And where have you come since then? What sports have you added since then, Eric?
Then I got into powerlifting 9 years ago. And then floor hockey, and then golf around the same time. I started golf 9 years.
Very nice.
So before this pandemic even came about, what games did you qualify for? For what sport?
I qualified for provincials for weightlifting, but when the pandemic hit, it had to be canceled. And then I ended up getting hurt with a shoulder injury. And then my doctors told me I had to quit. So I just said, you know what? Don't want to risk my body anymore with weightlifting. So I don't regret quitting. I did my years of doing it, which I loved, but for my own health, I didn't want to risk getting hurt anymore.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's one of those sports, isn't it, where you can easily cause some damage to yourself. And
yes,
if you keep doing it and things don't heal up properly, you're just going to get worse and worse, right?
Right.
And then you get old like me, and you start hobbling around and making noises every time you stand up because everything hurts.
Yeah. 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 It was my time to quit doing it.
What other compromise that you got through Special Olympics?
Uh, Probably going to provincials for golf the first time. I enjoyed it. It was an awesome time. I didn't care. I didn't win a medal. I was just honored to go.
Mhm.
And and probably then provincials for floor hockey too, where we didn't win a game, but I was happy and honored to go. And I end up scoring in my team's last game.
Nice.
But I was just honored to go. And bringing home a bronze medal was awesome. And just the atmosphere to be um, there is the main thing.
Absolutely. Where did you go for your provincials for those, Eric?
I was Toronto for the floor hockey, but it was in Mississauga.
Yep.
And for the golf, it was near Newmarket. Um, and then for weightlifting, it was supposed to be in Waterloo.
Right. And then pandemic hit and
Yeah,
everything shut down, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Well, we won't dwell on the negative stuff, right? Let's stay on the positive stuff. So that sounds
yeah.
like quite an experience. When you think back to your time at the provincials, and you talk about the atmosphere and everything, what were some of the best memories you have from those provincial games? And let me tell you, I love the fact that you don't care if you won a game or not. The experience
No,
was amazing. So what things stick in your mind from the provincials that were so great?
just yeah, you got to talk to people from other teams and stuff, like in their hotel, or you get to meet people was a blast to meet people from other cities and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Lozie, we hear that every week, don't we? About
Every week.
funny how we talk to people and ask, oh, tell me something, great about your Special Olympics, and you're expecting something about, oh, I got a hat trick one game, or or the team won the championship once. But most times when we ask that question, it's about the friends that you make and the experiences that you have, and that just says everything about Special Olympics, doesn't it? That's what it's all about.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, what have you been doing during this pandemic to keeping active?
I've been going for walks. I've gone skating once to get some exercise. I've been walking a lot. It's just to keep me from not sitting around doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So listen,
Yeah.
Eric, I heard something about there was some events that took place up in Fort McMurray a few years ago, and I heard something about your tie to these events. What can you tell me about that? Was it wildfires? Is that what they had up in Fort
Yes.
McMurray? Yeah. What can you tell me about your relationship to that?
Well, my uncle lives up in Fort McMurray, works for one of the oil companies up there.
Mhm.
And when I heard about the wildfires, I said, I want to try to raise money to help the people up in Fort McMurray for the damages of their homes. And so I ended up doing a charity road hockey game where I did 3 games, and all the money that we raised went to Red Cross, and then it would go up. Then they would send it to. Then the government would match, and it went up to Fort McMurray to help the.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. That's what a great gesture. Good for you, Eric. That's amazing.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure a lot of people up there really appreciated that. That's incredible. Well, that says a lot about you, Eric. It really does. So if you're
Thank
just
you.
listening in, this is Guardians and Gladiators, London's only Special Olympics podcast. And we have Eric. Now, is it Pajot, Eric? Is that how you say your last name?
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
I use my high school French there to try and get the right pronunciation on that.
It's not an easy one to pronounce.
No, I'll bet. Eric, are you or I guess I know with pandemic things have shut down, but have you been working somewhere? We like to speak to the employers.
I work as a school crossing guard, part-time,
Nice.
and then I work at Burger King as a cleaner, but since everything's closed, like diner, they don't need me right now, so I've just been working, crossing kids to make some money to help pay bills.
Good. Now, so who is your employer when you're crossing there? Who is it you actually work for?
Stinson Security.
Excellent. So we really like to recognize employers when we speak to athletes on our program, and we really appreciate employers who hire people with intellectual disabilities. So Stinson Security, who I know people who are pretty high up, you could say so high up that maybe they might even be like kind of owners or something of the place. And I know that they are tremendous supporters of Special Olympics. And that is amazing. And then Burger King as well for hiring you. Hopefully when things open up in the restaurants in the next week or two, that you get some hours back in there again. That's great. So that's great. We like to recognize our employers, don't we, Lauzie?
Oh yeah. We like
Cool.
those kind.
So Eric, during the pandemic with everything shut down, have you taken part in any of the virtual things that have been going on? I mean, we've all kind of learned how to do virtual things the last couple of years.
When I was trying to do the weightlifting, I did, but
Yeah.
until the injury, but no, I've been mostly just going for walks and trying to go out skating and stuff to get some exercise.
Good for you. Good. All right. Well, Lauzie, I think maybe it's time for our athlete feature here.
So Eric, as Special Olympic athletes that we are, we follow an oath. Can you tell me that oath?
Okay.
Yep. Do you know the oath?
Yeah.
Can you say it for us, Eric?
I'm trying to remember it. It's been so long since.
Lauzie can get you started here. He can say it with you. He's pretty familiar with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me win.
Let me win.
And if I cannot win,
If I cannot win,
let me be brave in the
let
attempt.
me be brave in the attempt.
Nice. Can you tell us when you were braved in the attempt?
Probably provincials. Like my first one, I was nervous, so
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I'll bet.
I got the jitters out early.
Yeah.
That's
cool. And you said you scored in the last game?
and Mississauga one,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, that's sweet. And you got a bronze medal in one of them, is that right?
The floor hockey.
Floor hockey? Good for you. And those were fun games, weren't they? They had them combined with the youth games in Toronto, and that was a big event, wasn't it? Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We were all there, weren't we? Lauzie was there too. And yes, that was good.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, Eric, we really appreciate you joining us today. We've enjoyed hearing about it. Congratulations again.
you.
That gesture that you showed with Fort McMurray was really says a lot about you. So, you know, it's people like you that make Special Olympics so much fun and so much fun to be around. And thank you again for joining us.
No problem.
And we're hoping to see you back at Burger King soon. Not that Lauzie and I eat at Burger King. We're very health conscious, right?
No, that's a good thing. I'm bad for it. They give me free food and I take advantage.
Oh, we're not any better, Eric. I'm just kidding. We're not any better at all.
No.
All right. Well, you take care, Eric, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Eric.
No problem. Have a good rest of the day, guys.
You too. And Lauzie and I will be right back after this.
Welcome back to Guardian Gladiators. What a great first guest we had of athlete Eric Percott. Now it's our second guest. He's a former commissioner of the OPP. Welcome to the show, Chris Lewis.
Thanks, Lauzie. Good to see you and Derek both.
Good morning, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm calling in from beautiful Florida. Now, I was going to say sunny, but it's not too sunny today.
You had, oh, I'm sorry you
Yeah,
don't have the
but-
sun. As I look out and see
Oh,
another
wow.
3 or 4 inches I need to shovel before I leave the driveway.
I haven't held a shovel in my hand for a few months now.
What is it? What is it down there today? 105, 106?
No, actually, it's only it's only about 17 Celsius today.
Oh,
That's the coldest day I think we've had since we got here.
Oh,
Yeah, not too
wow.
bad, eh?
try minus 17.
Yeah. Thanks anyway.
So, Chris, thanks for joining us. As my co-host Lauzie said there, former commissioner of the OPP. And Chris, I know that you do a lot of talking. You have a lot of engagements that you go to. We see you on TV. We see you on social media. But I'm going to tell you, and I hope this doesn't hurt your ego, but today I would like to focus more on another member of the Lewis family, that being your
Perfect.
brother, Robbie.
Robbie, yeah.
As we all know, this podcast is all about Special Olympics, and we are absolutely going to talk about your relationship with Special Olympics in your role as police commissioner. But I want to first let our listeners know about the member of the Lewis family that we don't hear enough about, and that's Robbie Lewis.
Well, thanks for that. And I don't have much of an ego, so don't worry. I guess we all have a little bit of one, but no, Robbie is really the reason I got as involved as I did in Special Olympics, and particularly the torch run. I participated, like you did, Derek, way back in the early days of torch run, as far as just being a runner and buying a T-shirt, and to be honest, I didn't really understand torch run, Special Olympics. I didn't understand it all like I do now. Back then, I knew I ran in this thing. And I knew what it was for. I got a T-shirt. I knew up in Sault Ste. Marie, my baby brother, who's now 50, going to be 55 in March. I knew he skied in cross country competitions in Northern Ontario, and I never really put the two together. But it was always Special Olympics. Robbie is a cross country skier. He's won a pile of medals over the years. He's been to the nationals a couple of times. He's qualified other years, but didn't want to go because it was too far away. But certainly provincial games almost every year. And Special Olympics has changed Robbie's life. He went from very quiet, shy, would seldom even talk to his brothers, let alone members of the public. He always walked and got a fair amount of exercise, but he didn't compete. He didn't challenge himself. And he certainly didn't talk to strangers in any way. And but Special Olympics changed all that. And he, I've watched him kind of from afar at Special Olympics events, and I see him talking and dancing and having fun with the other athletes. And he doesn't really care if he ever wins. He's proud when he wins. But I said to him one time when he was going to, I think, Newfoundland for the nationals some years back, and I drove him to the airport in Toronto, and I said, "Good luck, Rob. I hope you win a medal." And he stopped and looked at me and said, "Other people have to win too, Chris. I just have to try my best."
Wow.
And I thought, if the rest of the world had that attitude,
Wouldn't that make this a better place, eh?
it would make it a better place. But that whole mantra of Special Olympics, just about doing your best, and if you fail, there's never a failure, really. It's all about participating and doing your best. And how's that ever a failure, whether you get a medal or not? But so anyway, he's been fortunate enough, and he trains hard enough that he's won many, many medals. And he every time someone new comes in the house, so he lives in Northern Ontario with my brother most of the time, me a few months a year in Southern Ontario. But any new person that comes in the house, he eventually goes into the bedroom and he comes out wearing enough medals that if he ever fell in the water, he'd never get out, because he is proud of them. So that's Robbie, and that really got me more engaged and more involved in the torch run in different roles over the years. And then as the director of the OECP torch run committee for a few years. And I still participate. I always buy a shirt. I don't do a lot of fundraising, but I do throw money at Special Olympics through the book sales. I wrote the book and dedicated to Special Olympics athletes, who it's all about. and a lot of speaking engagements and stuff. They'll say, you know, who do we make the check out to? And I'll just say, make it out Special Olympics Ontario. So I do contribute all I can, and still do run a bit more walking than running at this point in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm there too, and I still believe it's the greatest movement in the entire world, and it's all about the athletes.
Wow, that's great. And the support is definitely appreciated. I know that. You touched there on your book and some proceeds from that going. Talk to a little bit about your book. What is your book about?
Well, the book's about leadership, and you know, as a leader in policing, and in social different clubs I was in, and sports as a teenager, I really developed a lot of thoughts about leadership, and the importance of it in terms of, you know, the spirit of people. It's more not necessarily about work. It's about inspiring people around you to be their best. And I talk a lot about that, and as well in the work environment. And I talk about Special Olympics. As I said, the front part of the book, it's dedicated to Special Olympic athletes. And I tell a story about Robbie in there. So I go around, I lecture as a result of that. If it's for Special Olympics or some organization like that, I'll do it for free. If it's to police departments, I charge them a bit. And but I enjoy doing it and spreading the message. But it always comes with the caveat: here's my book. And every time I speak, it results in more sales. And it not something that sells like if Barack Obama wrote a book or somebody, but yeah. So I haven't put millions of dollars into the kitty for Special Olympics, but I've certainly given them several $1,000s.
Yeah, and every bit helps too, for sure.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Lauzie, when Chris was mentioning there about Robbie and some of his comments about, you know, it doesn't matter if I win or, you know, it was more about how much fun I had. Does that take us back to something our first guest talked about today?
Yeah, Eric.
That's right. And just so our listeners know, Chris here has no idea about our interview we had before Chris, and because we haven't aired this yet, but we were speaking with a local athlete here, Eric Pajot, and Eric was talking with some of his highlights as a Special Olympics athlete and going to the provincial championships, and made a couple of comments about we didn't win a game, and I didn't care. Like the most fun was meeting people from other cities and the atmosphere, and just very, very similar to what you mentioned about Robbie and his experiences at the games. And it just speaks volumes about the people that take part in this sport and how, or in this movement, and how amazing they are.
For sure. And, you know, from the physical perspective, as you know, Dr. Frank taught us years ago, that you know, the benefits of the physical side of it is tremendous.
Yes.
But the social side of it, something I never understood initially until I went to opening ceremonies and I went to events and I saw medal presentations and the spirit and the, you know, the support of one another and cheering for one another, no matter who wins. It blew my mind. And to see Robbie at provincial games and people in national events and people from all over saying, "Hi, Robbie." And I thought, how does he know all these people from all over the place? You know, but he did, and he talked to them and get up and dance with them and stuff. Like it just blew my mind at that positive impact it had on him and everybody else. I'm sure, Lauzie, you're the same. You know, it's just been such a wonderful organization.
Oh, it is. It has been.
Good.
Yeah. So another direction. How did you get the award of the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee?
Well, I got a few of those over the years because there's been a number of diamond and different Jubilee medals and stuff. And as a senior officer in the OPP at the time, the commissioner and the deputies decided kind of who was going to get one. A lot of us did it, so it wasn't like I got it. It was more for kind of years of service or decades of service than running into a house and saving a kid in a fire or something. It was, you know, but obviously you didn't get it if you're in trouble and if you weren't a hard worker and weren't a leader. But then as commissioner, I got to hand out those medals to people that we had a committee to select who we'd given to, people of all ranks, people that were civilians and not necessarily police officers, but an important part of the team. And so it's an honor, but you know, it wasn't like for heroics or getting in a gunfight or any of that stuff. Not like Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you touched a little bit earlier about in your role with the OACP in relation to the torch run and kind of being like the head of the torch run as far as the OACP go. It's been 35 years this year that the torch run has been around in Ontario. We're celebrating our 35th anniversary. We're really excited about the year ahead. As you look back and you have that unique perspective of seeing it from different angles, as far as from being the commissioner, from being involved with the OACP, as well as being, a family member of a Special Olympics athlete. What makes that connection between law enforcement, corrections, police, all of those different law enforcement agencies? What makes that connection between law enforcement and Special Olympics so important?
Well, law enforcement, and I'm glad you included people like corrections and Ministry of Natural Resources and many others that aren't police necessarily, but such an important part. Like I said earlier, civilians, uniform,
Yes.
police, law enforcement. It's a big family, and of course committed to doing things that are in the best interest of the public. And the decision was made years ago, before my time as a member of OACP, that OACP would recognize Special Olympics as its charity of choice. And you can imagine an organization the size of OACP, how many charities are coming looking for assistance and support. And they're all very important to public safety and the betterment of communities and members of the community. But so that you could be giving money out every day to a different cause, and all very justified. But OACP decided that it was going to be Special Olympics. And so that decision was made several commissioners ago by OPP Commissioner, and then Chief, I think, was Adamson in Toronto at the time, and the chiefs of the day. And so as a result, every year, that law enforcement torch run group it has raised millions and millions of dollars, and one of the biggest fundraising arms for all the Special Olympics in the world continues to be the Ontario Law Enforcement Torch Run. Pretty amazing. And it really, it brings police departments, law enforcement agencies together in an interesting way, because over the years, we've become a little competitive at times over different decisions and law enforcement issues and, who controls what turf and all that sort of stuff. And it created some bad feelings here and there. But when everybody's at the torch run, you don't know who's a civilian, who's a uniform, who's police, who's a guard in a correctional institution, federally, provincially, and on and on. All you see is a bunch of people wearing that law enforcement torch run t-shirt, cheering and helping the athletes, supporting them, and doing their thing to raise money for the cause. Like, it's a tremendous thing for athletes, but it's also a tremendous thing for the law enforcement world. To come together as a team to help the athletes who work together as a team. So, like, I can't think of a better cause. My brother aside, and the issues around that, for me as a family member and someone that loves his baby brother, it's just a tremendous way of bringing everybody together on so many fronts.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that, because it's so true. I've in my whole career have gone to several different conferences, depending on which area of the police service I was working in, whether it was like a canine conference or a different conference. I've never been to anything like the torch run, where you see that law enforcement ego drop. It disappears. Yeah. It's not there. You don't have people walking around sticking their chest out like, my whatever is the best in all of the agencies, or I'm this type of role. You're right. You don't know what rank somebody is. You don't know where they work really, other than they're in law enforcement, and it just all disappears. It's such a unique thing in the policing world, or in the law enforcement world.
It is, and I worked a lot at what we call, and the term, Derek, joint forces operations, or JFOs, where different agencies will come together on a biker murder or whatever and bring their expertise and different ranks and skill sets and physical resources and everything together to try and solve a case or fight drugs or whatever the case may be. And so the law enforcement torch run, in my mind, is the biggest joint forces operation in the entire world, because it spans multiple countries, multiple agencies, the police, the law enforcement, and on, all different ranks, civilian versus uniform, to use that term, all together. Nobody gives a crap whether I'm the commissioner of the OPP when I'm out running and sweating beside them. The odd person in the OPP might and think, oh my God, I'm running beside the commissioner.
Trip
But
him, trip him.
some of them had to carry me across the finish line. But it was important to me that, you know, as chiefs, we could break that kind of stuff down. There's a time and a place for that. And it wasn't for the torch run. We're all together. So, I mean, you can quote me on that. It was the biggest joint forces operation in the entire world, involving thousands and thousands and thousands of people versus 4 or 5 on an operational JFO.
Yeah, what a great way to look at it. I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. That's exactly what it is. That's so great. Cool. So are you back in Ontario any point in the next
Yep.
month and a half?
No, I'm not actually. I'm not back till
The snow's gone.
yeah, snow when the snow's gone. We live on Georgian Bay, so I want ice and snow gone. And we live out in Midland, Ontario, and so we're renting here till in Naples, Florida, till the 1st of April, and then we're slowly heading north. I've got my Harley down here, so I got to ride it part way back, and then dump it at a friend's place in Carolinas, and then jump in the car with my wife and continue home. And we're going to do that every winter, I think. Now I've got some health issues that are a bit exasperated by cold and dry weather, and that's not an excuse for being here. I'm a retired guy and I can be here, so I am. But from a physical perspective, I'm way healthier when I'm here,
Right.
and so that's important to me. But you know, the other day, I don't know if you saw it when I tweeted it, Derek, or posted it, but I was getting gas at a gas station, and the video come on. You know, you'll see commercials and stuff on the pump.
Yes.
And it was Special Olympics.
Yes.
And it
Is
was
that the Publix campaign?
No, that's
No?
another one. And I went into Publix, and of course they hit you up at the till for money. And the one day I went into Publix, there was some coaches and some athletes standing there with their local Special Olympics gear on and ball caps. They had a little desk set up and handing out pamphlets when you walked into Publix.
Right.
And so I stopped and talked to them, took pictures of them, you know, because I'm just so proud of Special Olympics. But there we are. You could have taken that scene, that picture, and those faces and put any T-shirt on them from anywhere in the world, including Ontario, and thought, "There's our Special Olympics."
So true. So true. Yeah.
It makes me get emotional just sometimes just seeing that, because it's so important.
That Publix campaign makes millions in the state of Florida. Every year they do that. It's a great campaign. We were hoping for something similar up here in the upcoming week, starting next Friday and going through the weekend until the Sunday, 28th to the 30th, is our national Tim Hortons campaign.
Nice.
Called Choose to Include Day, where there's going to be a special donut being prepared. And all the proceeds from the purchase of that donut through the whole weekend will go to Special Olympics.
That's fantastic.
So we had hoped to have some of our athletes out stuffing their faces with donuts, because cops don't eat them. So the athletes would have to eat them.
Right.
But of course, with the restrictions right now, we're going to have to switch to drive-throughs and deliveries and things like that. But we're hoping for that. And one other little thing, and the reason I'd asked if you were heading back up is I was hoping to see a really good social media post from you on your polar plunge this year to join in with our 35th anniversary polar plunge taking place February 14th to March 21st, 35 days of plunging for the 35th anniversary. But I can't imagine your plunge being too much of a polar plunge.
No,
down there.
No, for sure. I mean, last year I did it in British Columbia, and people thought, "Oh, wow, it must be nice here in British Columbia." Well, I froze my bum off. Oh my God! Because I had to walk out. I couldn't jump off something and then you're all wet and you get out again. I had to walk out, and I had to walk out a few hundred yards to get to the point where I could actually dive in. And that was the most painful part for me. I mean, it was freezing. People were on the beach watching me saying, "Who is this guy and what's wrong with him?" You know, and of course, the year before I did it in Georgian Bay, about 3 days after the ice melted and it was cold there. So I will do something this year for sure. And I will post it, but I'll do it with a bit of humor because it might be 25, 26 degrees Celsius when I do it. But I'll always do what I can.
Excellent. We'll look forward to seeing what you come up with there.
Great.
All right. Well, Chris, we really appreciate you taking time out of the heat. Probably a good thing to get out of the heat for a little while anyways. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we're glad
That's
we
a-
could help up here.
We're in a
you
bit
know?
of a cold spell, you know. It was down to 12, I think, last night overnight. So
Oh wow.
well, thank you for having me, Derek. Good to see you in that role. I sat on the committee that interviewed and hired the last or two ago, Cody,
Mhm.
for the role way back then. And so I wish you the very best. I know you'll do a fantastic job. You've been committed to Torch Run for many, many years. And Lauzie, really nice to meet you. And best of luck
You
to you
too.
going forward. And you're doing a great
Thank you.
job on this. And keep doing what you do. So give my best to all the athletes and coaches, please.
Will do.
I will.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
Chris.
My pleasure.
And
Take care, guys.
you too. Lauzie and I
Oh.
will be right back after this to wrap up.
Welcome back to Guardians and Gladiators. Well, that was another great episode we had today with our first guest, with Eric from Special Olympics athlete to the former commissioner of the OPP of Chris Lewis.
Great show. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you, it's so refreshing to hear these stories. I love it every week. I will never get sick of this. You know, Chris is on, as I mentioned, he's on TV. I think it's CTV that he does some crime specialist reports for. He does a lot of public speaking engagements, you know, and I've heard him speak many times, you know, but unfortunately it's usually about the policing world or the law enforcement world, or about a shooting that happened or an investigation that they want to know more about, and things like this. But to get to speak to him today about his brother, and wasn't that funny? I don't even want to use the word funny. Wasn't that ironic that he starts commenting on Robbie's experiences going to national games and things, and talking about, well, it doesn't matter. He doesn't care if he wins or not. And we just spoke to Eric, who said the exact same thing. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that is great there.
I mean, it says so much about what this world of Special Olympics is about, you know, and so inspiring. And as Chris mentioned, you know, if we had more people in the world that thought that way, just think how much better this place would be right now.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that was a lot of fun. It was nice of him to take some time out of his 17-degree
Vacation.
weather. He's in probably shorts and a t-shirt. We're up here about to put on winter boots and gloves and a toque to go out and shovel the driveway. So, oh well. All I can say is our polar plunge up here is going to be much more refreshing than his will be, I think.
Maybe.
So speaking of polar plunge, we've got that coming up starting February 14th. So we'll speak a lot more about that as we get closer, because our little podcast here has some big plans for polar plunge time, don't we?
Oh yes, and we can't wait to tell you guys.
That's right. We're looking forward to that. But before that, I mentioned to Chris, this weekend, if you're listening, make sure that you hit up one of your local Tim Hortons. They will be selling the Choose to Include donut. And all proceeds from that donut will go to Special Olympics. So make sure you hit up your local Tim Hortons. Drive through, walk in and grab a donut. In fact, you know what? If you're buying a donut, just buy a dozen, because you're going to want more than one. And you probably have some friends you want to share them with. Right?
Yeah.
Take a picture, post it on your social media, use the hashtag Choose to Include. You're going to be able to look at that hashtag next weekend and see pictures from all across Canada of people with their Choose to Include donut supporting Special Olympics. So I'm excited about it. I know all of the law enforcement community are excited about it, and so are the
Of
Special
course they will be.
No, I mean, somebody has to show them these are donuts. You're allowed to eat these, because that doesn't happen in the policing world. I wish that was the case. I am your prototypical police officer. I love donuts. I don't care what kind it is. I love donuts. It's terrible. It's a weakness. It is.
Yep.
And I blame the profession on it. They did it to me. Anyway, I'm sure you will be out hitting up your local Tim Hortons, Lauzie, and
Oh, I will be.
good. So will I. We hope everyone listening to our podcast takes part. Go and buy a donut. Take a picture of yourself with the donut and post it on social media with the hashtag Choose to Include. So we look forward to that coming up this weekend. And we also look forward to another great podcast, another great episode of Guardians and Gladiators coming up next week.
Until then, folks, enjoy your week.
And stay safe out there.
Stay safe.